views expressed on this program are those of the hosts, guests, and callers, and are not necessarily those of this station, its management, or other advertisers. You're listening to Transformation Talk Radio.
This show's audio was via a Skype call.
Get fired up for Spirit Fire Radio with your hosts, Dorothy Riddle and Steve Kramer. Get ready to shine the light on universal spiritual principles and uncover ways that ageless wisdom can guide you in cultivating consciousness in these modern times. Bring purpose to your life through practical spirituality and add to your awareness with Spirit Fire Radio. Now, here are your hosts, Dorothy Riddle and Steve Kramer.
Hello, listeners. It's great to be with you. My name is Steve Kramer, and I'm joined by my co-host, Dr. Dorothy Riddle. Hi, Dorothy.
Hi, Steve. Great to be with you.
Yes, indeed. And we are going to wrap up our series on mental energies, It's not the end of the month. Typically, we will go a whole month with one of our themes, but we've been talking about mental energies for a while. We started off with the energy of the will as being a mental energy, and we spent a whole month on that. And so we've covered, what is it? Is it 4 more after that? 4 total, rather. So 3 more this month, and yeah.
We covered 3 of the heart energies.
Yes.
And then 2 other mental energies, and now we're on the energy of organization.
Yes. So that was a long road to get to. We're wrapping up the mental energies, and actually, we're going to look at them as a whole. I believe, even with what we would call we've been referring to these as the rays. So this would be number 7, and it is the energy of organization. So sounds like it's going to be an interesting show. Dorothy, how about a couple quotes maybe? That's the way we love to start shows off.
Sure, I got 2 for us today, Steve. The first is from Albert Einstein. A ship is always safe at shore, but that is not what it's built for. And which I think is really interesting in terms of, you got to move out and tackle change. And then the second one is from the Dalai Lama. There is a saying in Tibetan, tragedy should be utilized as a source of strength. No matter what sort of difficulties, how painful experience is, if we lose our hope, that's our real disaster. So it's building on our past experiences, understanding them and leveraging them.
And sort of staying in the process. I find that organization has got a lot to do with process and staying in and moving with one's sense of purpose, which is the first one of the ship is safe at the shore, but that's not what it's built for. So all of these materials came together to create a ship, but it's meant to sail. And I think the same is with the second one in saying hope actually keeps us in the game, right? It keeps us utilizing and synthesizing all that we have learned and all that we are. And I think that's going to come, that word synthesis is going to be an important part of this conversation because that is organization, right? It's the coming together of various parts. But then what is that? How is it used? And what is its purpose? And so keeping all of that in mind, right? Not just the parts, but its movement and how it's used, huh?
That absolutely. And what's interesting is that this particular ray, ray 7, is known as the ray of this Aquarian age that we're shifting into from the Piscean age. So if you think of the Piscean age as being, very having a lot of hierarchical structure, fairly strictly defined structure, and now we're moving into a different dynamic, which is it's still structural, it's still organization, but it's a synthesis, it's a coming together of disparate parts, of different parts that can come together over and over again in different ways.
And how exciting if you apply that to people, and you think of the ways in which we organize and mobilize and act. It makes this incoming Aquarian age seem very exciting in that we are all creative components. We've said so many times that energy follows thought and that we create our own reality. And so that's why I believe that this seventh ray, or the ray of organization, is a mental ray, because we really are creating with our thought forms, and we as individuals. So when you think of the Aquarian age as the round table, we've mentioned that many times, the round table where each person plays a part, then you see how that sort of organization of all of our thoughts coming together to create something. And we would hope that's a better age, as in the age of Aquarius, or at least continuing to evolve, right?
Absolutely. And one of the things that's interesting to me in the various Ageless Wisdom teachings that we keep referencing, and that I think we'll talk more about next week, is that there's a very strong emphasis on the fact that we can learn from each other. Everyone has something to teach, as opposed to the hierarchical, the older hierarchical model, where there's only one person at the top, right? The teacher, the guru, they're the ones that know. Nobody else does. They're the ones that we need to learn from. But instead, we each have, I think of it as a big puzzle. We each have pieces of the puzzle. Some of us may have more pieces. Some of us may see more of the structure. Maybe we have, some of the edges, and we see how it's all going to come together. But each of us has something to contribute.
And some of us might have, worn edges from trying to fit in all the different parts over and over and over with the puzzle, but you'll find your place. That's the Aquarian model. But Dorothea, what I love about what you were just saying, and what comes to me, is that in order to do that, we have got to stay open. We have got to reach this level of consciousness that says or reports back to us that we are a part of a system, of an organized whole. And that it is so important that as we acknowledge that, as we at least consider that opens the door then for what does somebody else have to contribute? What can somebody else lend? What are they? Just by being here, by the very notion that they are incarnated with us on this planet, they've got something to contribute. And so creating space for that comes from us realizing that each one of us has this vital part to play in that puzzle. It's that staying open to it and understanding, seeing the parts that make the whole, which is also, I think, an aspect of this energy of organization, that it is a mental energy, seeing that, in the mind. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's really interesting. I would invite our listeners, if you haven't done so already, to really, to take parts of a day and try to really be aware of the fact that we are connected to everything, everyone around us, every part of our earth, because there's energy in everything, at least in every natural thing around us. And it really is a different way of experiencing the world than thinking it's me, it's some people that I think are important, and everybody else can just kind of fade away and vanish. I don't think of them at all.
Yeah, I'm an ex-New Yorker, and I used to magically make it from my house, on several different subway lines in what would seem to just defy time. I knew exactly how to move and what door to get on and what stride to take, that I could get such a distance in like 22 minutes. I would have it down, and I would think, sometimes it takes me 22 minutes just to get from my front door to the subway. But when you start to see yourself as this working order, that there's this flow, and you realize you're a part of this system that is in constant movement, and you sense that you're connected to everybody. It's easy in a city like like a big city like New York City, where there's so many parts moving, and you can kind of become aware of how you fit into it all. And then it seems to just start to work with you and for you. It's quite magnificent. I find that to be very seventh ray. You know, the way things, the way complex organizations work can be quite lovely.
Absolutely.
Tap into that.
Absolutely. And part of that, you know, awareness and potential connection to everyone stimulates a focus on service, which is also part of this energy. You know, the awareness that, I mean, because that's really what service is a demonstration, an external demonstration of the fact that we are all interconnected. And so we need to treat each other with the respect and dignity that we in turn want to receive. And that plays out in a number of different ways that we are helpful to each other.
Wouldn't you say, though, Dorothy, that we could really look at each one of the ways in which each of these energies, both of the heart and of the mind, of the 7 rays, really show us a way that we can be of service? That it works through all of them, really. But what I love about this one in particular is it shows us the ways in which structures. I find that this 7th ray, the energy of organization, shows us the ways in which, when we are of service, we are actually lending ourselves to this ordered system that will serve us, you know, that will return that goodness back to us, right? It's like this, there's almost, it's also known as the ray of order and the ray of magic. And magic being conscious use of energy. So as we're conscious of being of service and ways we can be of service, we then see the way that it contributes to the greater whole. And it's that sort of mental capacity to be the observer, to step back and look at the ways that your service created change and created, goodness as a result. It's that is the energy that synthesizes your service and manifests it into a better world for all of us. So it's a beautiful way in which we see the results, I find, through this energy. Does that?
Yeah, no, I would agree, and you're absolutely right that each of the 7 energies that we're talking about, the 7 rays that we've been talking about, have their own demonstration in service, and this particular ray has that particular relationship to structural service, to the way in which we can organize for that focus. I think it's also interesting that we talk about these structures, and when you think about the organizational aspect, the 7th ray is often associated with what's known as the physical body. You know, from an energetic point of view, we talk about the soul, the personality, the physical entity, the physical body, the emotional body, the mental body. And the 7th ray very commonly governs or expresses through the physical body. And if you think of all the organs within a physical body, you know, all of the systems in a physical body that have to be synthesized, that have to work together for a healthy body, isn't that an interesting image?
It is an interesting image. Well, and if you think of the physical body as being this precipitation of all of this, you know, we often talk of us being made up of energy, but all of this has come together and organized in such a way to create a being with kidneys and a liver, and you know, right. It's just fantastic, and the ways that it's constantly working together. Anyone that says there isn't an intelligence greater than our own, you know, just look at the human body. It is magic. I mean, it truly is organizational magic incarnate. Dorothy, we're already at our first break, so Listeners, we'll be right back after these words.
Are you ready to branch out? Take a leap of faith. Then tune in to Get Rooted Radio with Erica Gifford Mills on TransformationTalkRadio.com every second and fourth Thursday at 9 a.m. Pacific to equip, empower, and enlighten yourself. Erica will energize and excite you to power up your passionate dream that sets your soul on fire. So, get fearlessly ready and get powerfully rooted in your yes to live it up, love it up, and let it go to ignite the life you deserve. Visit GetRootedRadio.com and tune in.
Stuck in a roundabout of dysfunction? Learn how to speak your truth to power with host Dr. Kathy Obear. Create real change with smart tools and smart strategies. No frills, no fluff, just life-changing conversations to help get you where you want to be. Extend your reach and become an agent for real change with Kathy Obear. For more information on Kathy and her work, please visit drkathyobear.com. That's drkathyobear.com.
Did you know that when working with the law of attraction, it's beneficial to share your longings with a supportive tribe who can assist in maintaining accountability and hold the creative space for your desires to manifest? I'm Autumn Seibel, host of Golden Otter Radio, where the metaphysical meets the mainstream. Join me each month at the new and full moon to plant your seeds of abundance, consciously tend to your intentions throughout the lunar phases, then harvest the fruits of your co-creation with the universe in my Lunar Manifestations members-only forum. Your tribe is waiting for you at goldenotter.us.
Are you ready to broadcast your brand idea with the latest in information technology? Bioresonance software distills your brand ideal or intention and enhances your core internal organizing principle. This has a tremendous impact on your organization's alignment as well as the behavior, satisfaction, and the retention of its employees. Your physical business structure can unfurl, opening up the possibilities of creating an energetic presence for a brand even ahead of its launch. Check out JeanetteWolf.com for more on its signature frequency branding.
Welcome back, listeners. We're going to continue our discussion on the energy of organization by discussing our organizations. Dorothy, we finally get to really tie it into the show, which is great. So Dorothy and I are both here on behalf of two educational nonprofits that I think you'll find very interesting. And this is a collaboration, Spirit Fire Radio, of these two. Dorothy, a bit about the School for Esoteric Studies.
Yes, I'm with the School for Esoteric Studies. You can find out more about us at esotericstudies.net. We are an educational nonprofit that provides training particularly for persons who have a spiritual practice that they wish to deepen. And we also have a number of group initiatives to complement and support that training. One of them is intentional collaboration with other like-minded groups. And so this collaboration with Spirit Fire is a very important one to us. It's been really lovely to do this radio show together. We have other types of activities that you can find on our website, and we invite you to join us. Right now we are running our Subjective Group Conference. Its topic is From Suffering to Joy, the Science of Redemption. And you're welcome to join that. We do that through the Aries, Taurus, and Gemini full moons, the period known as the Three Linked Festivals. And as I said, you can find out more about that at esotericstudies.net. And just as a final word, if you are interested in collaborating with the School for Esoteric Studies on any kind of activity, please look at our website, esotericstudies.net, and get in touch with us, and we would welcome that outreach.
Wonderful. Thanks so much for that, Dorothy. I am here on behalf of Spirit Fire. We are an educational nonprofit whose mission is cultivating spirituality and educating people on the importance of consciousness and awareness in their everyday lives. It's been really a keynote of this show, which is how do we make spirituality practical? And it really is at the core of our mission. We feel that meditation is a huge part of that, into tapping into that omnipresent field of awareness. We do that through our own meditation practice called the Practice of Living Awareness. It's a free online meditation practice. We are constantly creating new meditations within that practice. You can sign up and have those delivered to your email. And we've got a meditation center in Western Massachusetts that supports that practice and brings contemplatives and teachers and spiritual seekers from all over the country and all over the world through our doors. So quite exciting. And I'm sitting on the mountaintop right now. So it's lovely to be a part of this indeed. So Dorothy, to continue this conversation on organization, I wanted to just talk about for just a moment ways in which we might see this energy expressed or manifest. You know, when you said, it reminded me, as you said, of the body and the physical form being related to that because it's such a feat of organization. It made me think of the ways that we sort of see this energy expressed, and it can help us sort of build upon the conversation of why this energy is important. And it's in roles that we see people, for instance, the policeman or the judge, this idea of energy and working in harmony, of right relations, of order. You know, we think of order in the court, or really somebody who's able to take a look at a situation and bring order to it, really by utilizing law and utilizing wisdom and sound judgment, and policemen keeping the order, and actually very Aquarian of being, or I also think of the mayor, sort of all things to all people. You think of the UN, the United Nations, as being an organization, a round table. I even think of the shape of that building. It's so beautiful. If you've ever seen the interior of it, this idea of the round table and everyone having a voice. And again, the idea of goodwill and human rights. You know, how do we organize ourselves so that we can ensure human rights? I also think, speaking of buildings, of the architect, this idea of bringing various parts together, as you mentioned about the ship, you know, what it's built for. I think of the craftsman and somebody that is an artisan, but understands how all of these parts are going to come together. So those parts synthesize to make something that works. So we can see how that is really a statement about humanity. Like, how do we bring all of our parts together, meaning us, which are very different and diverse, but have a certain commonality as well? How do we bring them all together, synthesize, so we've got this working order? So that is, these are all considerations of this energy of organization, I find.
And it was interesting to me in the Canadian news today, not the U.S. news. There was an article about a new group, a new international group that has formed of Canada, France, Germany, and Japan, and I think there are other nations that will join as well. One, they're joining as an alliance to focus specifically on international cooperation, areas like climate change, like people seeking asylum, big issues that need coordinated effort. And what's sad to me is that purposely the United States is not part of that, because the President of the United States has been very clear that he doesn't see that kind of collaborative work as being important. And so this group is, you know, they've said that they're particularly aware of the rise of authoritarian regimes and regimes that want to control others as opposed to work with others. And they are setting themselves up, which is really what the United Nations was originally intended to be, as a group that would work together for the common good, not just for national interests. Yes.
Well, we'll be there in 2 years. We'll join that group really soon. Don't worry. Dorothy,
but I thought it was interesting to have that international recognition that it is important enough to create a new structure of coordination and organization to make sure that collaborative activities were ongoing.
Yes, yes. And you can kind of see, I don't know if I could do it right now express this well, but when we get to this seventh ray, we've been at 1 through 7. I find the number 7 to be so interesting because it really does sort of denote all of the parts coming together to make the whole. If we think of the prism, if we think of light being broken down into a spectrum, there are 7 colors to the spectrum, and all of those colors combined, working together, integrated, create white light. And the same goes with notes, with musical notes. There are 7 notes to the octave, or to the scale rather. And then we see it repeat again as it goes up an octave. So this idea of 7 days to the week, there's 7 dwarves that all work together. But we see this idea of 7 parts to the whole is really an aspect of life in the manifest world. And we can think of all of the energies we've talked about: will, initiating, to love, wisdom, which is the attractive energy that brings these cooperative components together, and then active intelligence, which puts them into use, puts them into flow. We actually see them out in the world. This idea has taken shape, and now it is out there moving about. And then there's 4, which is harmony through conflict, which says all of this is out there. Now, how do we make sure it's all balanced? Then there's 5, which brings order to it. 6, which says, well, what are you standing for? What are you devoted to? It sort of brings it into line and gives it a higher purpose. And then 7 seems to be this synthesis of all of that. It's sort of like all of these energies we've been talking about work together, one to the next, to the next, to the next, that then bring about this end result. It's as if this is the manifest. So in terms of the United States saying, well, we're not involved in this, you can see how making a decision, this idea of sort of being totalitarian, it's a choice. It's will. It's the energy of the will. It's number 1. And you could sort of follow that through all of the implications and how that has been initiated as a sort of, a way of governing. And you could take a look at what the result is. What do we see now as a result? And that's to say, how organized are we, or how disorganized are we? Which is actually reports where our intention was from. Was it for the greater good? Was it cohesive, or was it an energy of divisiveness? But I think by the time you take a look at, well, how did that impulse actually, because it's moved through all of these layers, what do we have now? What has the result been? I hope that made sense. Just to see them as a continuum,
Absolutely. And then we can look at, what does misuse of this energy look like? And if you think about this particular energy as the synthesis of bringing things together, there's a dynamism that has to continue in order for a living entity, to maintain itself. You can't just have everything be static. You'll die if that's the case. And so then we look at misuses of this energy where you have a compulsive devotion to having everything in its place or on time, being very narrow-minded, very rigid, being very overly attached to convention. It's kind of my way or the highway, or if you don't get it done at this time, that's the only option. So it's a very closed. The misuse comes from closing the synthesis process, trying to freeze it in time and not allow it to continue to move and grow.
Well, right. We're always saying, too much of any one thing is no good, right? And so it's kind of like too much order, too much organization. This idea of, we're organized. I think of what you were saying about America saying, well, we don't really believe in that idea of collaboration. we are a system in and of ourselves, and we would like to stand apart. It's limited. It doesn't acknowledge that, well, actually, no. We are a part of a greater organization that is life on this planet Earth, that actually the choices you're making are working and, not working with it. But it's that idea of being too organized and limiting by creating order that actually then pushes other people away. Or, as you say with time, I think of my mom saying, dinner's at 5 o'clock, and if you're not here, you don't eat. That idea of, well, then what's dinner really for? Why did you make this dinner if it's really that strict? If I'm here at 5:15, I don't get to eat? Seriously? So, it's that idea of limiting by being overly organized, overly ordered, overly structured. Too much of anything, right? Not a good thing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Dorothy, we're already at another break. I don't know how that happened. So, listeners, we're going to be right back, and we'll continue this conversation.
Did you know that all of the shows on the Transformation Radio Network are available as podcasts to stream or download?
Really?
Check us out. Go to transformationradio.fm. We have business shows, spiritual shows, energy healing shows, and pretty much everything in between. Something for everyone, guaranteed to inspire, educate, and transform. We are transforming the world, one listener at a time.
Dream on, fly high, and live adventurously on The Laura Meeks Show. Tune in each month on Transformation Talk Radio as host Laura Meeks guides you in finding your unique gifts and bringing them to life. As a certified life coach, speaker, and veteran bomber pilot for the U.S. Air Force, Laura knows how to follow a dream. She is ready to support you so you can dream on, fly high, and live adventurously. For more information on Laura and her work, visit flyhighliving.com.
To find answers to life's questions, you need to look within yourself. Dr. Glenna Rice brings your questionable conversations on Transformation Talk Radio each month. Tune in each month for insight into how you can live up to your full potential. Dr. Glenna is a physical therapist, certified Access Consciousness, and Access Body Class facilitator. How does it get any better than this? For more information on Dr. Glenna Rice and her work, visit glennarice.com.
Living Lighter Radio with Jason and Patricia. We have an ecosystem approach to your life. Tune in weekly every Monday at 1 p.m. Pacific on Transformation Talk Radio as we, Jason and Patricia, discuss what's truly holding you back. We offer you the tools you need to reach your goals and at the same time be living lighter. For more information about Living Lighter, visit www.livinglighter.org.
Welcome back, listeners. Dorothy and I are going to continue this conversation. We're talking about the energy of organization, and it's all a part of our sort of series, if you will, on mental energies. Dorothy, we were talking about ways to misuse it, and perhaps this segment talking about how we can be effective with this energy. How can we bring more of it into our lives and really more of it into the world? And that's it right there. I mean, it's in that statement that it really, for me, is about the big picture, about what are all the working parts of this thing called life, and how do we make sure that we're working with it, that we are a part of that process, right? We are synthesized with the whole. Yeah,
that's right. And it was interesting just listening to you right now, Steve. You were talking about how to bring in the energy. The energy's already here.
Yeah.
Right.
Tapping into it.
The issue is how we work with it. We've talked before on this show about, being aware of the ebb and flow of energy. There are groups that meditate together, particularly at the full moon, because there's a particular flow of energy, abundance of energy. And I think it's that sensitivity to the fact that there is the ebb and flow, as opposed to being either under-organized or over-organized, you might say. Just paying no attention whatsoever to what's happening to the flow of energy and just wanting to operate on impulse is not very effective, both in terms of using this type of energy and because part of the energy is collaboration with other people. If I'm just doing my own thing at whatever time I want, how can I ever coordinate with you, right?
Yeah.
I have to be willing to accept a certain level of organization and timing in order for us to work together. If, on the other hand, I'm overly emphasizing the organization, as you said, like, dinners at 5 o'clock, that kind of thing, then I'm really restricting the creative process, and I'm not able to be open to new perspectives, new ways of thinking, which is really important in the whole synthesis process.
Well, I love that you mentioned meditation, and certainly, we're coming upon the full moon, quite an auspicious time where millions of people all over the world are meditating daily, but many of them with a purpose, a very specific purpose for these next 3 full moons. One thing, we do a lot of meditation retreats here, and a number of them are foundational retreats where people are coming to meditate for the first time, often with a group or at a meditation center where the environment is really set up to allow you to really engage in that meditative experience, which is very seventh rate. The architecture is organized in such a way that makes that, gives you greater access to that, gives you a doorway into that. But what people say all the time is that they had never experienced the palpability of group meditation, of the group meditation field. And it is that idea of synthesis and that idea of experiencing group life, and especially in terms of organized mental energy, where they say, wow, they often will say the word like lean into the field, somebody who's got the lingo down, but other people will say, I really sort of felt the support of the group. How is that possible? Someone who's never done that before. And it's that wonderful feeling of being in group, often in a circle. It works really well. And just realizing, wow, here's this energy field that I have just actually not only I've sort of become a part of, but I've actually opened myself up to it. As you're saying, that energy is there. It's just a matter of being aware of it, allowing yourself into it, and actually with intention becoming a part of it and saying, here I am. I'm going to synthesize my mental energies with the group mental energies, and you feel it. It's wonderfully palpable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
absolutely. I just want to add for our listeners that kind of group experience, whether it's a group that's physically together or a group that is subjectively connected, can be very powerful. And it's important to remember that what meditation ultimately is about is being a clear channel for energy, and we really want to be able to do that 24/7.
Yeah.
Which doesn't mean sitting on a cushion for 24/7.
No, it means you've got to bring it out. You've got to take that ship and sail it, right?
That's right. You've got to be able to take that internal stillness, that type of focus with you into every single type of everyday activity.
Well, and it's also considering the implications. I wonder if you don't mind, could I read a few verses from the Tao that I find so interesting and very related to that? And because I find that the ray of organization, that this energy of organization has got so much to do with form, as we've said many times, and precipitation, manifestation. What does it look like? And then what do you do with it? And what has actually led to all of those parts coming together to create this expression? As we were saying, sometimes that's an expression that doesn't really work. We kind of go, oh, I don't know. Do we really want all those parts? But here's a wonderful contemplation. It says, it's the verse 11 of the Tao Te Ching says, we join spokes together in a wheel, but it is the center hole that makes the wagon move. We shape clay into a pot, but it is the emptiness inside that holds whatever we want. We hammer wood for a house, but it is the inner space that makes it livable. We work with being, but non-being is what we use. I find that
beautiful.
So beautiful, because it says, what's the potential now that we've organized? Now that we've brought all of these parts together, what's the potential? How do we use it? What is it, first of all, reporting to us as a form? But then it's what we do with it. How do we use it? And make sure we do use it, right?
That's right. That's one of the reasons I picked that first quote about the ship. It's safe at shore, but that's not what it's built for. And I think that's one of the challenges with this particular energy is getting focused on the structure itself, the organization itself, rather than what is the purpose, what is the potential, where is it that we're trying to head, what is it that we're trying to do together.
Well, I find that comes up so much with the body, with people who are experiencing dis-ease, and they may realize that actually there's thought forms that are creating really negative habits and choices and emotions that keep repeating themselves again and again, and then it's displaying as a physical symptom, and they want to sort of treat the symptom but realize it's not going anywhere, it's not going away. It's because you need to look at the whole, you need to look at all the parts that have come together and how are they working or not working as a result of all of the parts not being considered. And often when we start to heal holistically, taking into consideration the whole being, which is, I've got a physical body, yes, but I've also got an emotional body. I've got a mental body. I've got a spiritual body. And becoming aware of the ways in which they are all interconnected innately. They are actually all various parts that have made this physical form, but they're all parts that synthesize to basically allow us to experience this world, allow us to do good, allow us to basically move and express and be a channel for that clear energy, as you say. But we need to be aware of all of those. So I find organization and becoming really efficient and effective with that energy really requires us to be aware of the fullness of our being and all of the various cooperative components that have come together to create this human experience. We've got to be aware of all of those parts. Sometimes we don't.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I know. And, if we think about, again, how is it that we help ourselves be open to this energy and work with this energy, I think one of the keys, at least for me, is continually focusing on the fact that there's no one right way. And we talked months ago about the myth of duality, where we get into right, wrong, and the kind of rigidity and constriction that comes from that. And at that point, I know I talked about experimenting with, whenever you are giving two options, give a third option, a fourth option, a fifth option. That kind of approach opens us up to the fact that there is flexibility in how we come together and how the organizational rules get applied. And that, I think, is really key to making sure that we don't abuse this energy.
Well, it's so key. And it reminds me even of this idea of, you've got a pot. Well, it's the emptiness inside that holds whatever you want. But don't just put one thing in it. You know what I mean? You're limiting it in its use. Really, we've got this structure. Now, can we be open enough to utilize it in the ways in bringing the endless potential? Here is this structure of earth and of a human being and of will and all of these energies that we've talked about. But now, how do we use it? What do we use it for? Right? And options, being stuck in one right way. Well, that's so limiting. You've got so much potential to utilize all of the various parts that have come together, whether it's just the structure of your mind or it's your physical body. What do you do with it? Well, you don't want to do the same thing every day, right? You've got this body that's got the capacity to be really flexible and experience so many things. Don't just experience the same thing again and again and again. So agreed, for sure. And that is, again, this something we've got to watch out for with this energy of organization is only seeing it this one particular way. Well, it's organized this way and it works, so that's it. Well, maybe there's more ways, or judging another because it's not that way. Yeah.
Well, and if we take the image of the pot that you gave of, I was just thinking, like, you can take the pot, it's a really interesting image or exercise, and say, okay, so how many ways could this pot be used?
Yeah.
It could be used for flowers, it could be used to hold coins, it could be used to hold stones, it could be used as a hat, it could be used, so you start to think of, it could be used as a seat. There are many different ways to utilize a form that's been created.
Beautiful. Dorothy, we're going to go to another break, and we'll be right back. Listeners, join us after these words.
You said forever, you said always. Now you know things have changed, and going back is not an option. It's sudden, devastating, and is like taking a leap of faith. Tune in to From Two to You, Thriving After Divorce Radio, as Sarah Luz, empowerment coach and spiritual mentor, reminds you to have faith in yourself. Tune in every second Monday at 10 a.m. Pacific and listen as Sarah encourages you to leave negative stories in the past and move forward. We all need a friend when I do becomes I can't. Let Sarah help as life takes you in a new direction. Leave the guilt and doubt in the past, step into the spotlight, and show the world who you are. To find out more about Sarah Luz, visit sarahluz.com.
Are you ready to embrace your essence and the magic of who you are? Let me, Emily Perkins, hold your hand and walk with you as we go treasure hunting for the gold that lies within you. Tune in to Love Living Radio every second and fourth Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern on TransformationTalkRadio.com. For more information, visit lovelivingHolistics.com.
Hello, listeners. Welcome back to Spirit Fire Radio. I'm here with my co-host, Dr. Dorothy Riddle. And Dorothy, we have had such great conversations on every show for the last many weeks, talking about ways in which these energies can be utilized to bring about inclusive social action. And I know this conversation and this work, certainly between our two organizations, is not complete yet. It seems that it's just coming together in such really fun, interesting ways. But I feel we've talked about it so much in this whole show's conversation of today, of the ways in which, it's inherent, right? If we just sort of allow it, we would see that we are here to work together to be inclusive, and that it's necessary to act. It's necessary to utilize. It seems that we've been actually talking about it for the whole show, don't you think?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And that word inclusivity, once again, just means, how do we see ourselves as a part of inclusive social action? That we innately are a part of it already, but how do we utilize, this thing called me? Right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Well, go on.
We were talking before about the fact that anything has many different perspectives, many different uses, that it's really important as we think about the ways in which we want to organize our communal life, our social life, that we be open to many different perspectives. And you sent me a quote this morning from New York Magazine, which I think is really relevant. How about if you read it?
I would love to. It just makes me smile. There is a new presidential candidate, which is has been really remarkable to follow. His name is Pete Buttigieg, and he has sort of shot to the top tier of these candidates. And I would say that he's such a remarkable human being in terms of organization. He seems, anybody who would like to know how you would put this energy to use, or how you can sort of tap into what it feels like to be in the presence of it, or watch it utilized, sort of drawing from that energy of organization. Boy, listen to this guy talk. So many people he's been on The View, he's been on Ellen, he's been on every news organization. He is a mayor from South Bend, Indiana, and he's running for the Democratic ticket. And New York Magazine sort of wrote a whole article on him, but put this paragraph together, which I think you'll find interesting. They're sort of saying, well, would you be interested in this guy as your president? Well, personally, speaking for myself, I know I would. I'm quite a fan. It goes like this. They say, sick of old people? He looks like Alex P. Keaton. Scared of young people? He looks like Alex P. Keaton. Religious? He's a Christian. Atheist? He's not weird about it. Weary of Washington? He's from flyover country. Horrified by flyover country? He has degrees from Harvard and Oxford. Make the president read again? He learned Norwegian to read Erlend Loe. Traditional? He's married. Woke? He's gay. Way beyond the rest of the country on that? He's not too gay. Worried about socialism? He's a technocratic capitalist. Worried about technocratic capitalists? He's got the whole theory about how our system of democratic capitalism has to be a whole lot more democratic. If you squint hard enough not to see color, some people say you can almost see Obama, the inspiring professor. Oh, and he's the son of an immigrant, a Navy vet, speaks 7 forward languages in addition to Norwegian, Arabic, Spanish, Maltese, Dari, French, and Italian. He owns 2 rescue dogs, and he plays the blankety-blank piano. He's actually terrifying. What mother wouldn't love this guy?
The different perspectives, because we were talking about how it's not just one thing, but you can look at him from different perspectives and you see different things about him. And that's actually true of everybody.
Everybody. I just did a presentation. My brother teaches dentistry at Midwestern University and asked me, they're doing a whole series on these are aspiring dentists that are going to set up practices, and they're doing this whole part on conscious communication. And so, here you've got a practice and somebody comes into your office and perhaps you've got ideas about who they are. You might have belief systems that the way they live their lives you may not agree with, but now they're your patient and you've got to get along with them. So it was sort of setting that up, and I didn't know it was going to happen this way, but I sort of became the ambassador for the LGBTQ community. And my brother, who knows I'm gay, said, come on, talk to them about inclusivity and being gay. And I said, all right. And a big part of that was, if you met me, that probably wouldn't even come up unless I was with my partner or we were talking about my love life, because there's so many things that make me interesting. I run a nonprofit. I'm a lefty. The list went on and on. I've got a dog named Deke who's a 100-pound golden doodle. I need a lot of sleep. I like well-lit, clean places. There's so many things that might pick your interest about who I am. And I would hope that if you met my partner and I, that you would get way beyond the fact that we're 2 guys. You would see that when we're together, we're incredibly happy and laughing, that we're totally different, that he's really tall and I'm really short, that he's really grounded and I'm really spaced out. It's funny to see us together. There's so much you might miss if you were only to look at us and go, oh my God, they're 2 guys together in a relationship. Come on. And it's that idea of really seeing the fullness, experiencing, being open to all of the intricacies, all that has come together to make this amazing sort of experience and also expression of being a human in life on Earth. So really, I find this Seventh Ray or this organization is really about noticing and being a part of this thing that is a great working, it's a work in progress, and we're a part of it. And how do you fit into it? And how do you move with it? How do you sail with it as the ship goes, right?
Mm-hmm. You're mentioning that, Steve, just reminds me of an experience that I used to have when I taught cross-cultural communication. And this would be like to a large class. So I would come in the first day and I would say to them, I'm Dr. So-and-so. I've got a doctorate. My parents both have doctorates. Now, what do you assume about my background? And they would, invariably, the class would say, well, you probably grew up in a college town, and they would have all these stereotypes. And then I would tell them that, I actually grew up in China and India. I emigrated to the U.S. for college. I spoke 3 languages by the time I was 5. It's just a whole different picture than what they had in their mind. And it's helping people see that the world is very beautifully complex. And part of what this energy is helping us bring together in synthesis these very different parts. But we have to recognize that they are different parts and value them as different parts.
And not make assumptions, straight away. And give it time. Really, so much of this, there's also an aspect of this energy which is about ritual. And to me, ritual is about allowing. It's allowing the parts to work together to then create a result. So much of it is to not make assumptions, not make judgments, not hear somebody's got a doctorate and their parents have a doctorate and go, oh, well, you must be really book smart. You must, where really, no, it's that you are a beautifully well-rounded human being who's experienced so much that probably within that doctorate, within those letters on your names comes a whole lifetime of really fantastic experiences that have made you who you are today. And so it's really the capacity to recognize that and look for that. Be curious about it. Be willing to work with it, want to work with it, want to get collaborative with it, with each other, no matter who they are, because we all have that potential,
Absolutely. And just to underscore with this particular energy and in relation to the inclusive social action theme that we've talked about before, I think this particular energy really underscores the importance of group action. Yes. Of being open to working in group, not just going off on your own, but really coordinating with others, learning from others, and harnessing the potentiality of that group energy.
And, and an exercise, as soon as you're done listening to this show, go outside with that knowledge that I am a part of group energy. Like I am a part of a group. Like there is group actioning happening right now just because I'm out in the world, and certainly we want to be more specific than that in our endeavors, but that's an aspect of it. Go outside with that awareness and see what happens. It actually can be quite magical. Dorothy, that's the end of our show. I love this conversation today. That was great. 7's a magic number. Yeah.
Yes.
All right, listeners, join us next week. We're going to talk about esotericism and the ageless wisdom. We've scratched the surface of it so much on so many shows. So next week, we're going to dive right in and talk about how we would apply the ageless wisdom to our everyday lives. Hope you'll join us. Thanks, Dorothy. Thanks, listeners.
Thank you for listening to Spirit Fire Radio. Tune in each Wednesday at 9 a.m. Pacific, 12 noon Eastern for your weekly guide to purposeful living and practical spirituality. Join hosts Steve Kramer and Dorothy Riddle as they shine the light on universal spiritual principles and uncover ways that ageless wisdom can guide you in cultivating consciousness in your everyday life. Add to your awareness with Spirit Fire Radio. To learn more, visit spiritfireradio.com.